Hello, everyone. Happy Monday evening after one of the craziest weeks in recent memory. We are here tonight with all of you to hopefully bring some levity, some fun to a week that has been just straight up hard, y'all. We know that. We hope everyone's doing okay. We hope that you're all taking the time you need to kind of, just remember who you love and remember that things can all be fun and okay. So we're going to fill you with some Star Wars fun. We're happy you're here. We hope you have a great time. And I hope that Wes punches it. Welcome into the living force, everyone. Hello, I am one of your hosts, Eric Eilerson, and joining me tonight to talk about some good old-fashioned Jedi are the doctors themselves. First, we have Dr. Corey Helton. Hey, buddy.
What's happening, friends? Hope you guys are good. I'll have you know that I literally just realized that Charles put the stethoscope against a book in that intro video, and I've never noticed that before. It's been literally months.
That's right, everyone. It is amazing what you can get Corey to sign off on at Utini because he doesn't watch all of it. But speaking of that great stethoscope trick, we have the master of the B-roll himself, Dr. Charles Hankel. Hello.
Oh, look at the mug.
Yes. Hello there, everyone. Figured this mug would be fitting for tonight. And we're acting as the Jedi would. Only we would have the audacity and the hubris to live stream at the same time, more or less, as the National College Football Championship.
It's truly astounding, and I think it's good because I guess we're gonna lose listeners here. I desperately hate Ohio State as a lifelong Michigan State Spartan. I gave $100,000 to that school, so I like them quite a lot. But also, I really don't like Alabama. Sorry, Andrew. So, Star Wars night. Also, Wes Jenkins is here. What's up, dude?
Hey, how you doing? Go Ohio State. Yeah.
Wow. Well, damn. Okay, here we go. Anyway, we're here to talk all about the Jedi. Real quick, I want to address something in the chat already. And also, hello, all of you. Josh 5H asked, are there going to be Light of the Jedi spoilers in this? No. There will not. This episode, despite my Light of the Jedi books right here next to me, there will be no Light of the Jedi spoilers. We will not be talking about Light of the Jedi in any spoiler way until we do our round table, which will be at the beginning of February. So stay tuned for that, but no worries. The entire month of January, feel free to listen. If you haven't read yet, there will be no spoilers to talk.
That's right.
There will, however, be moments of me bragging about the out-of-print exclusive cover that I have, as well as the pin and as well as the socks. Right there.
Oh man,
Republic,
we
baby.
are the Republic. Fantastic.
Yeah, if you were fortunate enough to be one of the folks that picked up the out-of-print exclusive version of Light of the Jedi, this was what came with it. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, a lot of our team picked this up.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
I think they did. I think they did. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't. I'm not a huge collector. The only one that I currently own is the Master and Apprentice Special Edition. So, but
you also don't like Star Wars, famously.
That's
so.
right. That's right. Not really.
I must have seen 6 or 7 people on the team who are like, yeah, I got it. I got it. I'm like, oh, no big deal, huh? Everybody just picked it up.
Yeah. I seriously think between the regular version, the exclusive version, and the audio book, this is going to be the book I own in the most formats of like any Star Wars novel or any book in my entire life.
Well, you did call it the best Star Wars book ever written, so there's that.
Well, that's where I wanted to start. Even though we will not be giving spoilers, I did want to just acknowledge the week that has happened before the terrible things that happened in the country in the week. There was some really great stuff. And I want to mention the book release on Tuesday of Light of the Jedi because, y'all, I have never seen a book release like that. I mean, on Monday night, we obviously talked about the High Republic. We got very excited, and we had our little hype session. But, oh my, it felt like a film release on Tuesday.
Yeah, our Discord was blowing
wild.
up. Like, Twitter is blowing up. It was a very active community after that. Always refreshing to see around books.
Yeah, right. I mean, the Light of the Jedi channel that we have has been going every day with people also being very respectful of spoilers. Y'all rock, appreciate that. But everyone's been kind of telling them, "Oh, I'm on this chapter, and this is what I love. Oh, I love that too." And oh, now I'm on this chapter. What's going to happen? And there's been so much active talk about it, which is kind of what we hope happens for every release. But I mean, Discord, Slack, Twitter itself. I mean, it's been so much fun to see everyone kind of explode with excitement over this. And I want to shout out, especially on our team, Nathan, who, as you said, Corey, I wrote our Light of the Jedi written review. Nathan put up the video review, which became the fastest watched video review in the history of Utini. Like, I think now, what are we at? 1.7 thousand views?
Yeah, it's
or
up
something.
There. It's pretty up there, which is pretty good for we're still a pretty new YouTube channel, guys. So like, yeah, that we've gotten a lot of comments lately. It's been really fun on our YouTube channel to see this video take off.
Yeah, and we gotta say, the YouTube channel comments are a place of scum and villainy. Like they're horrifying places. Let's be clear. But the Utini channel this week, there were so many comments of just people enjoying the content and having a great time and conversation with each other, asking good questions. So if you were one of the people that was commenting this week, just know that we saw it. Know that we had a great time. And if you're a horrible person, know, I guess, that we read the comments. So that's dangerous, I guess, to open up.
Yeah, absolutely.
But thank you all for seriously making a really hard week a lot better with this community. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk about before we get into we got a reference guide, a book we're going to review a little later on. We're going to be talking about the Jedi through canon, legends, and the films, etc., in the part of the main show. But there's a little bit of news today, boys. We got an official rebranding, I think we'll call it, in Lucasfilm Games. So this was one of the really cool things that happened today. Corey, if you want to throw up the article on there we go. Look at that brand new logo. Lucasfilm Games was rebranded in a way. And this was interesting. I don't know if you guys read this. EA has been the primary Star Wars game maker lately, but they made the choice to bring up all the mobile stuff, all the console stuff, all the Sims extra DLC under one umbrella in Lucasfilm Games. What did you guys think when you heard about this?
I don't know if we really know what it means yet, do we? Like, I mean, it looks like they're bringing everything back, but like,
it's provocative. It gets the people going.
That's right. Is this sort of a reboot of like LucasArts? I mean, is that still a thing, LucasArts? I mean,
I don't know. Like when they didn't give us any new material, right? They didn't give us any sneak peeks of what may be coming down the pipeline, but it was all the old stuff we've seen before. But I still got goosebumps when I watched that video. It was
it was good.
Yeah, it was great. But I agree. It was like I think it opened up with like something from Jedi Fallen Order, and I was like, oh heck yeah! And then it went to like The Sims on Batuu, and I was like, okay, all right. Yeah. And then it went to like Battlefront, and I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting because LucasArts famously and infamously got dissolved when Disney had the acquisition, and a bunch of those developers the last few years have been like coming out and saying, well, here's how far we were on this game and here's what we were making, and that does kind of suck. So those aren't coming back, but I do find it cool that they are essentially promising that there's this big future of Star Wars gaming coming. And Matt Martin said something on Twitter recently about Star Wars gaming that he was very excited about. So I think this is just kind of a cool way to promote that excitement about, we are going forward. And you mentioned that trailer, Charles. What did you guys think watching that trailer? Because I know I think the community has been critical as a whole of like the amount of games we're getting compared to the old days where we got 18 games a year. But watching this trailer, I'm like, damn, we've really gotten some stellar Star Wars games in the last few years.
Seeing how they just came right out the gate right after the Disney purchase with this EA announcement, that came really quickly, if you guys remember. And then like they pushed out some good stuff in the last couple of years. So I don't know. The fact that this had a trailer, kind of like the way the High Republic had a trailer, is kind of like, this just says to me that maybe we're just unifying, like maybe for the first big time, like they're kind of taking a step back, going to try to reconnect projects a little better. And this in combination with Matt Martin's comments too, it kind of makes me think that maybe it's just all going to be connected. Spiceden says in the comments that the EA deal is still going to happen for 2 more years. That's still under contract. Right. So, I don't know. I don't know what this means. I think it's very interesting though.
Yeah, I think it's good because in a way it just shows that they haven't forgotten about it. I think that's the thing that, unfortunately, in the era that we're in with social media and news releases, no news is news.
Right.
Like, oh, we haven't heard anything about gaming in a while. That means they're abandoning it.
Right.
But I will also
particularly after, like, I guess the kind of drama that was Battlefront 2's launch, like back in the day.
Right. But I also want to say, you mentioned the High Republic trailer, this trailer. I think we're all team pro trailer. I think every announcement of Star Wars should have a trailer.
Yes.
Because goddamn, these things are fun, man.
They are.
It's certainly good. It's certainly good hype noise for anybody to listen to.
Absolutely.
But they on that trailer, they did spend probably a good amount of time on Jedi Fallen Order itself.
They did.
I
was really expecting a Fallen Order 2 announcement.
Yeah,
in there, man.
just like a 2 right after that, and you're like, oh shit, it's real.
Yeah, because we know they're making it. Like, we know it's in development. So, I guess before we move on, I want to ask y'all just speculation, which we don't do on this show. Famously, we have no news, we have no info. How long do you guys think it'll be before a Fallen Order 2 announcement? Because it hasn't been that long since it came out, in realistic terms.
I don't know. It depends how much they already worked on it. Like, did they did they plan on launching that as like a series? Because I don't know if that was already if they just started it like as the last one finished, then I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah. How long did it take him to make the first one?
Oh, a hot minute.
Years and years. So I would say we're still a year away from anything.
Yeah,
2022 probably the earliest.
At least Fallen Order 2. I think they're going to announce a big Star Wars game in the next 6 months, though, for sure.
Yeah.
Like a
Most
really
probably
big...
a first person Rail Avaros adventure. My guess.
That would be don't you toy with my heart, Charles.
Start saving money now.
I think we're due for a shooter, honestly. Like some like not like an FPS, but like a single player first person shooter like Bounty Hunter type of thing. I wouldn't be surprised if we go down. Have you played that yet, Eric? I know you bought it.
So I did buy Bounty Hunter, Star Wars Bounty Hunter, the old school game on the PlayStation Holiday Sale. I played it for 4 minutes. Dealt with the camera and immediately uninstalled it. So
what?
The camera controls are horrendous if you've played any modern games. That being said, everyone, I will say this, and then we'll move on. I did get a capture card because these boys here have been pressuring me in friendly ways, of course, to be on Utini game night soon with my shiny new console.
Peer pressure.
So,
do drugs and also buy a capture card.
Exactly. So maybe I will. I'll reinstall Bounty Hunter if people ask, so you can see me suffer with very antiquated game controls.
Suffering.
Yeah.
But you know what? On the bright side, the people that help us make content, including antiquated game controls and all kinds of other things that we so desperately enjoy, are our lovely patrons. And we wanted to thank Davis Wheeler for becoming a patron this week. Thank you so much. I wanted to highlight you for your contributions to Utini and the Living Force. And we wanted to remind everyone, this Friday. So if you're a patron, tomorrow. If you're listening on the main feed, tonight. If you're here Monday, it's Friday, the 15th. Corey will be reading Jedi live. Stay tuned on all of our social platforms for details. Corey, how you feeling about this giant event?
I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Listen, reading Jedi has been interfering with my ability to read the new High Republic book because I feel like I have to.
Wild.
Yes, I feel like I have to get like pretty far into the book, if not finish it before Friday, and like I don't want to read it, so I'll read a couple of pages and be like, ugh, I hate this, and put it down. And then in the meantime, I've not made any progress whatsoever in Light of the Jedi, which really sucks. So,
Yeah.
But
So
it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So this Friday, let's talk about the event. So I famously hate the book Jedi. It's like we have a culture of positivity here at Utini, but Jedi gets a special exception for me specifically. And it's not necessarily the writing or the author or anything like that. It's just the character of Corran Horn. The way he is portrayed is horrible. I can't stand the character. And so like it's been a running joke for the longest time how much I despise Corran Horn. So this Friday, as a Patreon reward, I'm going to sit down And we're gonna have a big show. I'm gonna read out loud a bunch of parts of iJedi, not live streaming it. We're gonna do it only for our patrons. We're gonna
Wonderful.
Yeah, we're gonna live stream to our patrons some unfiltered, largely inebriated Dr. Corey Elton reading iJedi, and I still have to come up with a drinking game. I've been trying to ponder what I can do. I mean, I've thought of stuff like, every time a Corran Horn does something horrible, you take a drink, but I would be plastered in like 10 minutes, so I can't do that. So I don't know. I need your help. If you're a fan of iJedi and you're one of our patrons, shoot me a DM on Discord and help me figure out what kind of drinking game I can come up with this. So it's gonna be fun this Friday. I don't think we have a time yet. We're still kind of playing it by ear, given my schedule, but it'll probably in the evening, probably 7, 8, 9 p.m. Eastern time. We'll figure it out.
Yeah,
I'm glad you added out loud, because if you just sat there to read it and didn't do it out loud, that would probably be pretty.
I'm just sitting here reading it. I just make faces every couple of minutes, like, ugh, God. I mean, that's what I look like when I'm actually reading it. So,
Ooh, Corey, we already have suggestions in the chat here. I'll read a few. Our very own Frank Sullivan says, wearing a Jedi robe whilst you do so could be interesting.
I do not own a Jedi robe, shockingly.
Wow.
Charles does. Charles has got like a straight up Obi-Wan costume. It's pretty next level. Yes, it is.
We also have Jared says, drink every time he uses the word slender.
Oh my God.
Oh,
that doesn't feel good to say.
Nothing about this entire event feels good to say.
And then Josh asked, will this be classified as ASMR? And I would say absolutely. That's how I'll get to sleep for the rest of the month. Well,
God.
Tune in Friday. Oh my God, Cheryl, drink every time he brags.
I would be plastered in 15 minutes. I cannot do that.
Well, tune in Friday night for all of our patrons as a thank you. See what Corey chooses. And a reminder, you all have already hit the next Patreon goal, which is a Phantom Menace film commentary. The four of us are actively chatting to find a time. We do have some upcoming author interviews that we're trying to schedule at the moment. So we're working around those. That's another little tease for y'all. But we will be filming that ideally by the end of this month, releasing that on Patreon so you can watch along with us anytime you like. And one more community goal update. Thanks to our recent patrons, we are 10 Guardian of the Wills patrons. That's our $5 a month tier. If we get 10 more, we will do an all-patron Rogue One watch party. So just a reminder, if we get 10 more of those, we'll watch Rogue One together. It'll be a blast. All right. Now, Corey, would you please introduce my favorite segment of the week?
Yes, absolutely. Every single week, we like to highlight one of our patrons, and this week is no exception. We have a ton of really awesome content over at Patreon, patreon.com/Youtini. Go check that out. And this week is a special member of our Patreon community, special to my heart. I know he's a big part of our community. He's always in our chat, giving us really awesome lore knowledge, and that is our very own Spice Den. Wes, you want to throw up Patron on the week?
Hey everyone, my name is Jacob. You might know me better as Spiced from Discord, and I've been asked to do the Patron of the Week segment, so here we go. I am originally from Indiana, although I currently live in North Carolina, and I got into Star Wars. I feel like most kids my age had a copy of the 1998 VHS box set in their house, so that definitely did a lot of the heavy lifting. But in addition, I spent a lot of time at my grandparents growing up, and they had all of my uncle's old Kenner action figures in the basement. So that was a lot of fun playing with those with my cousins down in the basement. As my journey into Star Wars grew, I started to get into the EU a little bit, and my first novel actually was Outbound Flight. I read that for a book club in middle school, and I think it's quite fitting that now my favorite Star Wars story is Chaos Rising. I still haven't even read Heir to the Empire, but I love Thrawn, and I love the world that Timothy Zahn crafted in Chaos Rising, so that's my favorite Star Wars story now. I found Youtini quite a while ago. Someone recommended the bookshelf to me on Reddit. May it rest in peace. Even though I used that for quite a while, it wasn't until much later that I got into the podcasts and the Discord community that Youtini has. I actually decided to contribute to Youtini via Patreon when the annual membership sale came around. I got so much out of the community at that time, I figured it was a perfect opportunity for me to give back. Now, here's my question for you. With the High Republic having launched last week, if you could pick one character to either get their own solo novel or their own comic book miniseries, who would it be and why? And please, no spoilers. Thanks, guys, and we are all the Republic.
R.I.P.
Oh,
bookshelf.
that was awesome.
RIP.
Oh, okay. A couple things right off the bat. Number one, That was a rad shirt. Number 2, Jacob, I love your Thrawn journey because I think it's so emblematic of everything Utini is, which is like wherever you come in, awesome. Like you are a Thrawn fan who loves the character and has never read Heir to the Empire. That's dope. That's
it is
fantastic.
so dope.
Like so, that is great. Oh my God. A bunch of F's in the chat for the bookshelf. I love you all.
Yes, just in case, we should probably talk about that for a hot second. Just in case you've missed this, we're officially discontinuing support for the Utini Bookshelf. That is our online book tracker. We're going to come out with some new cool solution for that, I think, in the next year, maybe the next 2 years. We're looking at maybe building an app, things like that. But it's taking a ton of resources to keep that thing maintained, and we just have other awesome stuff we want to focus on. So I think we're going to discontinue that starting this Friday. So if you have an account, you have until this Friday to pull off all your collection and everything, and hopefully move that to some new solution in the near future.
Yeah, I will also suggest the Utini Goodreads Club, which is formed so you can do all your tracking there. But Jacob's question, I will agree with Adam in our chat right now. There is only one answer. Who gets their own book or comic? It is Loden Greatstorm himself. He is my namesake on the Discord channel. He is the sticker on my Alexa right next to me. That's my answer. He's lovely. He's everything I hope I become. And everything I wish I could be. Gentlemen, your thoughts?
Whole new meeting to ride the storm.
That's right.
I love your answer, but I see it and I raise you the blade of Bardata himself, Porter.
Oh, Porter
Love
Angle.
that guy.
Again, no spoilers in here, but that's a good answer if you read Light of the Jedi. Corey West, have either of you finished the book yet?
No, I'm not even
Corey,
close.
right.
I mean, I've been
stopped
stuck in I Jedi for weeks. All right, weeks. I've had this since I had an early copy of the High Republic.
Guys,
book,
I have 30 pages left, and I put that book down to come here and talk to you all.
Wow,
that's how much I love you.
It's insane. So based on then the Wes, have you started it yet yourself?
Of course, I've started. I started it weeks ago. Remember when we got those free 8 chapters to read?
Oh yeah, that's right.
I reread those, so I've read a total of 16 chapters, but I only know 8. And then I added 1, so I read chapter 9, and I'm done. Haven't gone anywhere else after that. Sorry.
Nice.
Well, then, purely based on the preview chapters or the announcements or the character art, who do you two want solo projects about? Wow, great!
Loading Greatstorm is also a really good option.
Yeah.
his introduction in those preview chapters they had were make him sound like a total badass. So I mean that sounds pretty good to me. As much as as the limited knowledge that I possibly have about these characters. So
I see some Ember love in the chat. How about just
Ember,
like
the Charlhound.
yes.
I'd like to know more about the Nile because I haven't even got to him yet. So
nice.
that would be a good fit, right? Because it's not a Jedi, but it's apparently what I don't know if they're Sith or if they're not Sith. They're Force wielders, but I know they're the bad guys. So everybody likes a bad guy. Let's do that.
I dig that. I also want to go in the chat here and mention a Dooku Jedi Lost style book for Avar, Stellan, and Elzar, who again. No spoilers for us here. There's a bunch of the Jedi that have been talked about. That'd be cool. And I think that's what the fun thing about the High Republic. It is endless possibility coming forward for who might get featured. So great question, Jacob. Thanks for being part of our community, man. It's really great every time you pop up in any channel, during the show, absolutely anything. And thanks to the rest of our patrons as well. All right. So now it is time for the Star Wars Weekly Roundup. That's right, the part of the show every week where I chat a little bit about either a little book you might not know about, some news, and this week we have the Star Wars Complete Vehicles from DK. A huge thank you to our friends at DK for sending this my way. That rhymed accidentally, but wasn't it beautiful? So these books, this book, as opposed to some of the other reference guides that are like, written by mostly Pablo Hidalgo or maybe 1 or 2 people. This book is written by Carrie Doherty, Jason Fry, Pablo Hidalgo, David West Reynolds, Curtis Saxton, and Ryder Wyndham. Now, Ryder Wyndham might sound familiar because they worked on a lot of the like instruction manual guides to the X-Wings and instruction manual guides to the Death Star, those books, which makes a lot of sense. And this is illustrated by Richard Chasemore, Hans Jensen, John R. Mulaney and Kemp Remillard, and additional illustrations by John Hall.
Nice.
So this book, if you're unfamiliar with some of the vehicle guides from DK, is basically a reference book guide that shows you the inner workings of all your favorite vehicles. Let's see. All right, let's get a good one here. The Naboo Cruiser. Look at this beautiful double-page spread. Oh my God. So these books are written from the point of view, they're not like in canon, like I'm a mechanic and I'm working on the ship. It's very much a reference guide for people that love Star Wars books. But the cool thing about this book is how in-depth everything is. Like you get the regular design of the ship, and then basically all of them have these cross sections where they just take away parts of the outside, show you all the inner workings from characters that may have been on the ship during the films, from the engines, the weapons, the cargo. And it's all really beautifully illustrated in a way that isn't overly technical, but is also beautifully artistic. I mean, you get more info than you'd ever want. You could spend hours reading all the technical specifications, or if you were like me, you can kind of just gaze at your favorite vehicles. And when I say this has everything, when they say it is complete, they're not lying. This has vehicles from the prequel era all the way through the OT, sequel trilogy, and including the anthology films. So we got Rogue One vehicles in here. We got Lando's specific Millennium Falcon. And that was actually one of my favorite things as I was flipping through this week. There's different versions of the same vehicle, right? So if you want to know exactly how much Han destroyed the Millennium Falcon in Lando's eyes, you can legit go back and forth between them and
That's
see
pretty cool.
little modifications that were made, right?
Nice.
And I forget.
Now,
and I
this
love
this
that kind of
book
stuff.
this book is essentially a combination of all the previous books that are like this. Is that correct?
Yes.
Like there's
Yes.
a lot of those smaller books of like you know the OT version of or maybe Phantom Menace only of the
Yes.
cutouts. This
Right.
is like all of them, right? It's huge. For audio listeners, you can't see it, but this thing is way bigger than these cutout books you've seen before. I mean, it's pretty thick, 2 inches or so.
Yeah, let me give I think it's about 260 pages total. And this thing, it also has 2 exclusive cross sections, which I'll let you discover on your own if you decide to pick this one up. But really, it is just a really nice collection. Like you're saying, Corey, if you liked the other ones and maybe you missed a couple or you've wanted to pick one up here, I think this is a great solution because it does have all of them in one solid page. The binding does feel pretty good as well. And some of these reference books, I think the bigger they get, they can start to feel a little flimsy. So just technically, if you want to buy a physical copy, it feels solid. It's this gorgeous neon orange color on the spine. So it looks really cool in the middle of a bookshelf. I know some of these design-wise can get a little dark, can get a little drab. But if you're looking at your bookshelf, you want to look at a ship, you're going to get this bright orange, and then you can flip right to it. You're going to get a little bit of story, and you're going to get some beautiful illustrations about the inner workings of your favorite ships. And last thing I want to say is at the beginning of each section, they go over like some introductory material. So they'll tell you about the different types of engines. They'll tell you about different types of weapons. So as you go through the book, you can kind of slowly accumulate this knowledge and recognize them as you go later on to kind of see, oh, this is how the A-Wing changed from the original trilogy to the sequel trilogy. And for me, at least, when I'm watching the films, I like to think about those little secrets because then I get to think, oh, that's a T-70 because the T-65B, the engines were different. And now I can recognize that as I'm watching because we're all goddamn nerds, aren't we? We love that stuff. So if you love that kind of thing, you want to see these beautiful cutouts like this. You want to see all the sections of the X-Wing. You want to know exactly how cramped Luke was. Definitely pick it up. Again, Star Wars Complete Vehicles by DK. If you got, again, some of that holiday money burning a hole in your pocket lately, you get some Amazon gift cards, or you returned that thing you actually didn't like and you got some credit, definitely recommend it. Pick it up, take a break from your fictional High Republic adventures and dive into some reference books. Can recommend it enough. And to round out this Star Wars Weekly Roundup, I want to give a reminder, speaking of the High Republic, that our reviews of Light of the Jedi and A Test of Courage are currently up, both on the Utini website, as Corey is showing beautifully right there. Written by me, compiled by our own Michael Hilton. And of course, we do have YouTube reviews up right now that are both reviewed by Nathan. So if you want to see how Light of the Jedi got to that 9.6 rating, go ahead, check out that review. I did the best I could without being too hyperbolic. I did fail a little bit, but I can own that. And of course, while you're at the website, be sure to head to our new releases page where you're going to find Claudia Gray's Into the Dark as the next High Republic novel coming up. And on February 2nd, you can also get all the High Republic novels that were mentioned last week, as well as the upcoming conclusion to Alphabet Squadron and the next Thrawn book. There's a lot of Star Wars coming up. Can't wait. All right. Now, Charles, we've talked a lot about these books, but a bunch of people in our community gave their own thoughts on Light of the Jedi this week, did they not?
They did. And actually, the very first review that we're going to go over tonight is from none other than Spice Den, who we just heard of from our patron of the week. So he actually reviewed Light of the Jedi, gave it 5 stars, and says it's a great start in the era. He says, I've been incredibly hyped for the High Republic ever since it was announced. Light of the Jedi was the perfect kickoff to this era. Soul makes me care about characters in a few sentences more than nearly any other Star Wars book has done in its entirety. The villains felt unique and formidable, and this new take on the Jedi was a breath of fresh air. Was this my favorite Star Wars novel ever? No, but it is probably in the top 5. I think more than telling a great story, which it does, it perfectly sets up all the stories to come. It sits on a similar level to Chaos Rising for me, which is about the highest praise I can give. And we heard from Spice Den that was like his favorite book in all of Star Wars. So yeah, very high praise.
Love it. Top tier, man.
Yes. Yes. All right. Eric, why don't you read the next one?
I absolutely will. This is by Ree, who also reviewed Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule, also giving it 5 stars, and said compelling characters and great world building ushers in a new era in Star Wars. He said Soule and the Star Wars story team did an amazing job of creating new characters and events in the Star Wars universe that expand it beyond the Skywalker saga timeline with a story that will keep you up to the wee hours reading. And I like that review especially because that is 100% what this book did for me. I mean, if you're a night reader, if you like to have the book by the bed, this will definitely hurt your next day because you're not getting the 8 hours you thought you were. If you're flipping through right before bed, you can't put it down.
This is my plan for tonight. Before bed, I am finishing this book. Wes, you want to take our last one? This one looks right up your alley.
All right. So this one was reviewed by Lando, and they also read Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule. 5 stars, 5 starlight beacons. So the review goes, yes or yeah, this is the best Star Wars book, hands down, period. I mean, that's what I like.
That's
what
right.
What more do you need from a review?
That's right.
Definitive.
Lando is he's got a handful of reviews on our site too, and they're usually longer than this. So this means something coming from him. So strong work, guys.
Lando, I gotta say, you said what it took me 2,700 words to say. So well done. I appreciate your brevity. All right, now before we get into a quick reminder. Me trying to segue here. If you want your reviews on this show, look up your book on utini.com, scroll down to the bottom of the page, add your star rating and use a review. I'm straight up not going to lie to you. If you review Light of the Jedi, we're probably going to read it. Getting very excited this month to share as many of those reviews as possible.
Eric, I have to ask before we move on.
Yes, you do.
You always have such a nice setup there with like your books and things. You're rubbing in the fact that you're out of print version of Light of the Jedi came in already. I see that. Do you have like a bunch of Jedi like Funkos around you tonight? What's your setup?
Oh, I will say here, I don't have as many Jedi as I would. I guess in front of me right now, so you're all seeing the live stream or the YouTube video. I'm at my desk, and in front of my monitors, I do change up which Funkos I have. Recently, it's been droids. This week, I did swap it out to Clone Wars era, which is why I'm wearing the shirt.
Oh, nice.
So in front of me, I do see Plo Koon, Ayla Secura, Kit Fisto, Anakin, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, Cody, a Trooper, Wrecker, a Maul Maul himself, and a Mandalore Commando. So that is what I'm looking at in front of me.
I gotta see the Obi-Wan.
Oh, and the armor, baby, too. He's got that Clone Wars armor.
That's the only one that I have. I have one Funko, and it's Obi-Wan. Okay, all right.
It's so tremendous. But that's an excellent question. I do usually try to put a little Funko in my display, but I think those Light of the Jedi covers are just so pretty. You know, I can't obscure them with literally anything. But if you want to buy things like Funkos, but instead want to buy Utini things, Corey, we got new merch.
Yeah, we do have new merch, but I have to ask you, Eric, do you notice anything interesting about that Obi-Wan Funko you got there? I mean, have you seen that one before? Are you sure that that's the one that you think it is?
I think so. would it not be?
It is not. Your partner Charlie got a hold of me, and Charles wanted us to ask you live on the show. That is a new Funko that she has given you this week, and she swapped it out. You have not yet noticed. So look at it closely.
Different Obi-Wan.
It's a different Obi-Wan than was there previously.
What? Wow. Yeah, no, it is. Damn. Look at that.
There you go.
Look at that. Yeah, he's up there.
Yeah, he's up there.
Oh, you. She's been pacing back and forth along the side. I'm like, why are you putting a sweatshirt on the bench? Oh, my God. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Yeah.
Very
Love
good.
you.
Very good.
To be fair, finding
Oh
a
my
new
God,
Funko
that's
amidst
amazing.
your collection is a needle in a haystack.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
Oh, my God. That's so, oh, he's so cool. He's going to sit. You know what? He is going in the display right now.
There it is.
And on that note, I think that's an excellent transition. We do have some new merch to show you this week, but without further ado, let's launch that merch ad. Go ahead, Wes. Yes,
Oh,
and
man.
that
10
is
out of 10
actually
merch ad.
that is actually a really great place to show off. We do have some new merch this week, and we have a new promo code this week as well. Jose did an awesome job of putting together a special High Republic for our High Republic t-shirt for the launch of the High Republic 232 BBY. No spoilers, but that is a big, significant event that happens in High Republic. So if you know, you know. But it's a really cool shirt. Really excited to get this thing launched. And we do have a promo code running right now. If you use the code HIGH20 for, and note this, not high 420, it's high 20. High 20.
20.
Yes.
All your THC needs.
That's right. That's right. Use the code HIGH20, and this t-shirt is only $14.99. We're running this for 2 weeks, so get your own very own High Republic merch, and yeah, all the benefits go towards the show.
All right. Jose,
All
excellent work
THR,
as
no
always.
THC.
Yes, sorry, none of that. Also, Heather, great job in that new merch ad. If you're an audio listener, Heather killed it with some of her own very special bits in that trailer, so go ahead and check them out. All right. Our main show tonight, we wanted to celebrate the Jedi of Star Wars. I know, very original, very unique. How do they do it? This past week, Light of the Jedi had truly insane success, right? It was kind of ridiculous how many people were talking about it. We mentioned it earlier. The High Republic #1, the comic, which we haven't even talked about at all, sold over 200,000 copies. Every comic book store was sold out of both the original cover, all the variants. I know our very own Jared on our team went variant hunting, picked up a bunch of them. But guys, I wanted to talk tonight in our little roundtable discussion about the Jedi, because when we talk about Star Wars, obviously a lot of things come to mind. We love our ships, as we've already seen tonight. We love our smugglers. We love all these things, but Jedi really kind of are at the center. So I asked this thought on Twitter, but I want to get your guys' thoughts first. When you think of Jedi, just in your mind, what kind of Jedi are we talking in your head? Are you talking prequel Jedi in the movies? Are you talking about Clone Wars, like super heroic leaping Jedi? Are you thinking about Luke, who's getting hit by like pieces of machinery in Empire? Are you thinking about sequel era? Or are you thinking like Bane? Are you thinking High Republic? What is a Jedi to you?
It's actually a really fun question, Eric.
Thank you.
Like I wonder if let's all answer this, and then I'll ask the question I want to ask. I automatically think of prequel Jedi Temple, Mace Windu, Obi-Wan. Like I go straight to prequel era, and I don't know if that's because I'm like a prequel kid or not. Let's see what you guys have to say.
All right, Charles, Wes, what do you think?
I automatically think of original trilogy Jedi, more
Interesting.
Return of the Jedi Luke or Obi-Wan, more very subtle, can basically knows they can kick ass, but they don't show it. So that's
All right,
kind of what I'm
a little
leaning
more
towards.
samurai-esque, like
There you
the
go.
old school original. Yeah,
More
love that.
monk than anything.
Ooh, yeah, great point, Charles.
Yeah, I'm with Corey. I think about the prequels for sure. I think about like the Geonosis arena. I think about
Oh, yeah.
Obi-Wan, obviously. I definitely don't think about Luke in Empire with those machinery parts flying at him, because you don't even need to use, this has always bugged me, you don't even need to use the force to hit those. Just use your eyes and he's
right.
swinging and whiffing.
I know,
It's always bugged me.
Get out of the way, bro. What are you doing?
It's a tough look for our guy. I will say there's a reason I wore this shirt tonight, because I think of Clone Wars lately. I really do think that it's like,
Nice.
it's that jumping off those ridiculously high platforms, throwing wrecks with the force, doing all that kind of stuff. And I will be very transparent when I came up with this question. It was originally because after finishing Light of the Jedi, I think the depiction of the Jedi in this era is so powerful that ask me this in a couple of years, and it might be the High Republic era. I
Wow,
think if they keep
interesting.
writing them with this level of specificity and power, I think there's definitely something there that can take it over. But Corey, what was the secondary question you wanted to ask?
Yeah, Wes kind of answered it for me. I wonder if different folks, like, they really do go to like completely different places. And I don't really know how to formulate this question, so it sounds like an interesting question. But really, I guess it's the core Jedi idea in people's head. Is it like monk, like you said, Wes, like Yoda, like hermit, or is it like action fighter, lightsabers, like? Is it like the politics kind of esque we get in like the prequel era stuff? I don't know. It's really cool to hear people have different answers to that, though.
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think that the best Star Wars, we will say it right now. No, we won't. You can love whatever you love. Let's be clear. But I think some of the most interesting Star Wars, for my money, is the Star Wars that asks that question. Because I think fundamentally a lot of the films are about Jedi discovering that, right? I mean, the fall of the Jedi is because they said we're keepers of the peace, not soldiers, and they became soldiers.
Yeah.
So that kind of affected that a lot. Yet, I think when we think about some of our favorite Star Wars scenes, it is those giant lightsaber fights. It's the Geonosis arena, like you said, Charles. And I do want to call out Spiceden in our chat here, who says shout out to Master Sinube, who is the perfect monk Jedi, perhaps, from the Clone Wars, you know? And I think that there are so many different answers to this. Cheryl says right below him, she's an OT kid, but there is such an all of the above answer for a lot of Star Wars fans. I did ask this on Twitter, I mentioned earlier this week, and most of the answers I got were prequels. Most people think of the prequel film specifically, which I think also might be a lot of people our age, or follow me on Twitter. But we also had a lot of OT love. A lot of people that was like, I like the Luke that can just barely get the lightsaber out of the Cave of Empire. I like the Luke that he fights in Return of the Jedi, but it's not 8,000 people. You know, it's very calculated. And do you guys think, Corey, you mentioned this a little bit, do you think it is based on your first experience, maybe?
I don't know. Well, my first experience was certainly not prequels. It was the OT.
True, I guess more formative age, I would say.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. It seems like, man, I almost started to say like it's where most of the content is, but that's not true at all. Most of the content is certainly not prequels era stuff. So I don't know. I don't know why it is that I think that. Maybe it's because we see the Jedi in mass, like in what the Jedi Order is, and like what their philosophies are, and all that kind of stuff in the prequels. But like, you know, even Yoda himself says in Empire that wars make that one great, or something like that, right? Like, I mean, like we talk
Great
about
audio clip that you just
right.
played right there.
Oh, excellent.
Very Mark Thompson like.
Yes, very much. There you go. Yeah, I am available to hire to read any Star Wars books except for Jedi. I won't do that one. But you know,
there it is. Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about the evolution of those Jedi, right? Because we go through these different eras. Like we said, we started in the original trilogy, which, if we want to go meta, the effects weren't as good. You can't have as crazy fights. Sure, we get that. Lucas famously waited to make the prequels until the effects caught up, so then they could make the Jedi crazy freaking powerful. But then using that as story is why he's a goddamn genius. And then, of course, we get to the sequel trilogy, probably most specifically in Last Jedi, with Luke talking to Rey about that, right? And having his final burst of power not being a laser sword fight, as he says, but instead being a projection to help people escape. what do you guys see as this is a big question. I'm just going to warn you ahead of time. What do you guys see as the trajectory of the Jedi over the last 40 years? Because we talked about them as peaceful monks. We talked about them as warriors. What do you think the through line is of the Order here as we are about to embark on a brand new era when they were potentially at their most pure?
Charles, you look like you have a thought. I want to hear it.
No, I think this is such a difficult question because in one way, I feel like the Jedi, what it means to be a Jedi has never changed, yet what we see the Jedi being has changed tremendously. So it's really like Obi-Wan talking to Luke when he first gives him his lightsaber, like that is the core of everything still moving forward. But what's interesting is that Jedi are inherently, as we see them, like this dichotomy of warrior monks, right? Like we see them constantly preach that, you know, you use your powers for this, like you don't try to take control of force. It's something that flows through everything. It connects everybody, right? It's this very, it sounds very pacifist, and yet every single one of them has to have these massive battles. So I just find it so interesting because where do you find what it truly means to be a Jedi? I think a Jedi who is in their absolute element, you know, living as a Jedi really would never have to ignite their lightsaber.
That's a cool statement right there, and I like that thought. Wes, I saw your gears kind of turn, so I want to hit you in a second, but I want to go off of that real quick just to say I like that idea a lot because it's very Yoda-esque as far as like, you know, when we always think of the perfect Jedi. Also, thanks for the follow. We think of like, I am at peace. I ignite my lightsaber once, do what I need to do, and then it's off. It's not a lot of flashiness. It's not a lot of things like that. Whereas other Jedi will ignite it, hoping not to use it, but absolutely feel free doing so. And again, without any spoilers, a lot of the High Republic novels show us Jedi who fall at different points on that scale. Reath Silas in Claudia Gray's novel upcoming is definitely very different in that resolve than, say, even Avar Kriss, Bel Zettifar, etc. I find that to be very interesting how they kind of create that little, I guess, scale of monk to warrior in that way. Wes, what were you thinking?
Well, I was just going to agree with Charles to where when you're a Jedi, you have come to such a point to where you wouldn't have to use your lightsaber any longer, whether you use force powers or you use just like a Jedi mind trick, but on a higher level. Right. But so when we were watching the original trilogy and we see Yoda, and you think of Yoda as, you didn't really think of him as a Jedi when you first saw him. But once he started speaking with Obi-Wan through the Force, you were like, wow, he really is. He's something different, not just a Jedi.
Right, sure.
So then that's how we come to know that him as being a master in the prequel trilogy. But what I think about most is he is so powerful. When he walked into Palpatine's office and threw the guards up against the wall just with a flick of his wrist, so like rad. That's kind of the Jedi that I like. They're so powerful. Just only like the flick of the wrists, like I say. Or we waited what, 4 movies before we saw Yoda do anything, and then obviously did his amazing CGI act fighting Palpatine. But seeing that also in Obi-Wan in the original trilogy he was more mentor-esque, but extremely powerful. But in the prequels, he was fighting the battles alongside Anakin. And then the antithesis of that is Anakin always wanting to get into a fight immediately, jumping out of speeders just to fly all the way down and try to catch on to something. So there's the I guess the timeline or the arc of all these different Jedi, it's very different.
Yeah, you know, it's always been, sorry to interrupt. It's always been very interesting to me that the Jedi Order allows that. You know what I mean? Like there's very rarely I can't even think of a single time this has happened, like a specific scene or anything like that. But the Jedi Order doesn't really reprimand Jedi that much for being at different points on the spectrum. Like,
No.
who's the one that Obi-Wan really hates, the real hippie looking dude?
Boss.
Yes, Quinlan
Quinlan
Voss.
Voss, yeah.
Quinlan Voss. Like, he is like this gung-ho adventure type of guy that Luke Skywalker probably would have loved, right? Like this
Right.
like action-oriented guy, and he has a place in the Order. So I don't know. It's very interesting to me. It's like there is a spectrum of what it means to be a Jedi, whether it's, action oriented or the negotiator, as Obi-Wan is famously called, or the librarian, for crying out loud. Everybody has their own role in the Jedi Order, so I don't know, it's fascinating.
But it's interesting because it is, at the end of the day, I mean, it is like a religion, right?
Right.
And even just in our world, there are subsets of Christianity or whatever, the overarching religion is. So it makes sense that in, a galaxy far, far away, that there would be kind of subsets of
Right.
Jedi that sort of
Right.
latch on to different ideals, but all
Right.
still have that connection to the Force.
Yeah, Cheryl makes a great point in our chat saying, I can't pin the Jedi down to one statement or thought because they're always learning and evolving and their points of view change as they go through life. I think that's one of the great things about Star Wars, frankly, is that it shows its audience, again, who are intended to be a younger people trying to find their own way, that no matter who you are, there's going to be a place for you within the living Force. There's going to be a place for you in this world, and that's okay. I mean, you look at the top two, who we were all told in the prequels, the top two most powerful Jedi are Yoda and Mace, who couldn't be more different, right? You have Yoda, who doesn't want to ignite his lightsaber, and you got Mace Windu, who's ready to kick ass in 3 seconds. And yet they're both equally respected and revered. And I think that's a really key part of the Jedi too. But to bring it back to the point where you were talking, Wes, I love how in Return of the Jedi, Luke's famous line, right? I am a Jedi, like my father before me. He only says that after he tosses away his weapon.
Mm-hmm.
That is when he finally assumes the full Jedi title. He is like, I'm a Jedi Knight. My father was. I am only worthy of this legacy once I have thrown away the only thing that can attack. And I think that philosophy really hits with Jedi once they hit their major moments, like especially when they're older, like we're talking about with Sanube and Yoda, just Jocasta Nu. Corey, you mentioned is the librarian. A shout out to our lightsaber gun wielding Jocasta Nu. Check out the Darth Vader comic. But I think there is a little bit of that idea that with wisdom comes patience, and the most powerful Jedi are just listening to the Force as opposed to trying to cut everything down. But I also want to hit on something that we don't talk about as much on this show that hit a little bit more on Thursday nights in the Teeniverse and Legends Look Back, and that is Legends. Because Legends Jedi are, as the kids say, built different. I would argue that a lot of Legends Jedi, as the years went on, got pretty dang powerful because
they did.
Charlie and I actually talked about this on Ghost Crew that is going to be releasing this Wednesday, that there was a thing with Legends books where you would have a really powerful Jedi, and in order to have good drama, you would then have to create something that could beat that Jedi. And then in order to have another book, that Jedi would have to learn something that could beat that obstacle, and so on and so on and so on over years. So eventually that's how we got to the point where Jedi were pulling Star Destroyers out of space.
Right.
So someone asked you guys a couple questions about this, because to be clear, we are not here at all the crap on Legends. Legends are freaking awesome. There's so many good stories in it. There's just clearly a difference when it comes to power dynamics and things like that. For those of you that maybe read a lot more Legends books than I did, how did you feel about how Jedi seem to evolve over the years in Legends books?
Oh man, they have changed.
Let's get weird. Let's go to the weird ones.
Yes, they have really changed a lot. I think the biggest example I think of this is Luke Skywalker, because like Luke Skywalker's arc as a Jedi in the books and comics is freaking nuts. Like absolutely nuts. Like it's no wonder that people like were not a huge fan of Luke's depiction in The Last Jedi, because like his depiction in the books and comics was like completely unrealistic. I mean, he has a crazy his arc is nuts. Like he turns to the dark side, the Emperor clones him, and then he's like a bad guy for a while, and then he's a good guy for a while, and
Shout
then
out
like
to Luke.
oh my gosh, it's just absolutely nuts. And then like the last stuff that he was last stuff he was depicted in. Oh, actually, it was just brought up in the comics in the comments in the Fate of the Jedi series, which was the last
That's Koki X212, our most recent follower.
That's right.
Comment.
That's right. Some of the most recent Legend stuff that was created was the Fate of the Jedi series, and like Luke is super OP in it. Like he goes on these crazy force walk things and travels in time and space, and it's just like it's nuts. Like it's absolutely nuts. Like, and not all the Jedi are depicted that way, but the fact that Luke can, depending on the context, the author, the situation, he can be depicted as like super weak. Like he can barely move things around, and he's always struggling with the Force, or he's like
say a noodle.
Yes, like that.
The Jedi.
Like that. Or he has to hold back, like because he's so ultimate powerful, like, and he's like just doing crazy stuff with the Force. So
When I think of an example of Legends Force powers, I think of the Force Unleashed video game that Heather had just played last week, like pulling Star Destroyers out of the sky, kind of Legends powers. So that's kind of where my mind goes to whenever I think of that.
Yeah, and and real quick, I just want to say we have now mentioned Legends and Christianity in the same episode, which officially makes this the most Jared show of all time. And Jared in the comments did mention on the Legends Look Back episode of the courtship of Princess Leia, they made a huge spreadsheet of Luke's powers. So if you want some more Luke Skywalker power dynamics, check out that episode. But I want to say where my brain also went in all this, it's not Jedi necessarily, but it's definitely still Legends Force powers-esque, is the Bane trilogy.
Oh yeah.
Because once you get to Bane's evolution,
oh, it's nuts.
Great.
Dude.
I love those books. He is creating storms of lightning, energy, flesh.
I think we need to pause there for a minute, because this is actually a better discussion about like the nature of the Force in Legends is a completely other discussion, because
so let's pause there, because that's a future show.
It is. It's gotta be a future show. The dark side is so unbelievably OP in Legends. It's like not even a comparison. Like it's an absolute miracle the Jedi were ever able to defeat any of the dark side users, because we have freaking emperors destroying entire planets and sucking their life force so we can live forever out of a planet. Like it's so over the top. And the Jedi are, the counterpart to that. Like they're depicted in the same way, where they do these crazy things, like these light whips and all these crazy weapons, and there's not consistency is really what I'm trying to say. Like it's all over the place. You can't say that the Jedi are a certain way in Legends, because they're not. They're like all over the place.
Sure, and I think that so let's definitely make a note, Corey. We're gonna do our shows for the upcoming months later this week. Let's put that in there somewhere. But I do want to mention the Jedi going from those crazy overpowered people. Again, I think you said it right, Corey. Depending on writer, depending on story, the Jedi philosophy and power struggle kind of molded to fit what they needed to for the narrative, which is totally cool for a writer to do. It's one of the tools in your toolbox. That's the cool thing about Star Wars, that so many things are possible. You can kind of just make it what you need, right? And then when canon, I've been looking at my bookshelf as I was writing up the notes for this show, and we don't have as many books that are just purely Jedi based. We got a lot of smugglers, we got pilots, we got soldiers, but not as much Force stuff, obviously, until now the High Republic seems to be all based on that. What have you guys thought about the approach to Jedi in canon storytelling thus far? Like what seems to be the direction they want to take?
I think it seems like they are trying to be more cognizant of the shortcomings of the Jedi, which we've talked about a ton on this show, right? But when back in Legends, the point was to make them over the top superheroes, right? Look at the power of the Force action figures. Look at Luke Skywalker. I mean, he looked like Mark McGuire. You have to look at these things like through a historical lens. And now
that fan casting so fucking bad now. Oh my god!
Now it's taking it slow, right? Because the future of Star Wars now seems infinite, whereas during Legends it was like there are no more movies. Like this is how we're gonna keep Star Wars going. And so they had to just keep like going up a notch, up a notch, up a notch. And now I feel like they have to pump the brakes a little bit and like really explore a Jedi in all of their facets, not just how do they kick ass, but how are they wrong? Like where are their faults? Like those sorts of explorations, which I think are actually even more interesting than seeing like, oh, you can do a thought bomb. Like that's dope. But like, tell me about your thoughts though. You know what I mean?
That's dope.
But hey, yo, man, I think your thoughts are bomb. Like, that's my college. That's my college.
I'm gonna clip that for this week.
Meet freshman year. Yeah, they're like, gang, let's rap. But I do say, Charles,
rap battle on the living force. Oh my gosh! No, I think the
all you clowns.
Oh my god! I think the other thing you have to address too is that like they haven't. I don't know that the authors have been allowed to take as many risks in canon because of just the natural storytelling. They didn't want to back themselves in any corners. Whereas, Legends, towards the end of Legends, like I know that Lucasfilm they were overlooking the production of Legends books and stuff, but like it really seems like it got way out of hand. The fact that there was like so many different levels of canon at the very end of G canon and C canon and it was God. That's George canon, by the way. It's like if George Lucas says it means it's canon. Ridiculous. Like there was this crazy level of canon that like it just got kind of out of hand and people were able to do what they want. I mean, Chewie was killed by a moon for crying out loud. I mean, like it's just like
too soon, man.
I know.
Too soon.
It's only been like 30 years, but still, yeah. So I mean, I don't know. It's the Jedi have changed. It really feels like we're crapping on Legends. We're really not. We love Legends.
No,
We've all led a crap ton of it. It's different. It's a different storytelling medium. Honestly, the fact that they were able to start over was really cool in a lot of ways because it made it so there's basically an alternate universe, which really unlocks a lot of doors. So
yeah, and I think we've talked a lot about the Jedi in canon, especially outside of Light of the Jedi, which again, roundtable episode coming in like 3 or 4 weeks. I think when we all think about Jedi representation in canon, Master and Apprentice is kind of the gold standard. Like Claudia Gray, it was our book of the year 2019. Before the Utinis were an official thing. We all love that book. I think it's because it really dissected not only the relationship between Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, but it really showed how they related to the Force itself. And I feel like that's where canon is really interested, is in saying this is how Jedi actually relate to the Force. And in the preview chapters we talked about with Light of the Jedi way back when, really kind of exemplified that with the Song of the Force with Avar Kriss and all these things. And I really feel like the High Republic is taking that in a really big direction, in a really big way. They're deciding we're not only going to show these Jedi kicking ass, which we are, that's very fun, but the Force was set up as an energy field. The Force was set up as a living thing that the Jedi could access. So there are unlimited stories within that. I mean, the weirdest things from a certain point of view, Empire Strikes Back, were some of the Force involved things, right? Like the Dagobah cave being a character.
Yeah.
And I think that's what canon is really doing. It's putting its mark on the Jedi Order with how do they relate to the Force.
Yeah.
And
maybe a decent end, like conclusion to this conversation would be to speculate a little bit about what we sort of foresee the future of the Jedi to be, because it is very much up in the air right now in canon, and it's kind of always been up in the air. And I think I like that a lot, actually, because in Legends it was full circle, right? Like we have Luke Skywalker is the only Jedi left, right? And then like we go back in time to the prequels where there's tons of Jedi, and then very shortly after the events that happened in the original trilogy, Luke basically rebuilds all of that, rebuilds the Jedi Order, and then like by the time we're not that far out of Return of the Jedi, like chronologically in Legends, like Luke has already basically fully restored the Jedi. Like, and it's a little ridiculous. Like they're in the Jedi Temple. Luke has his meetings with the Council. Like he's like Yoda was in the prequel trilogy. Yeah. Like, and it's a little disappointing to me, honestly, because like to me a little bit it takes away the sort of value, I guess, of Order 66 and the destruction of the Jedi and the Master Plan and all that kind of stuff. Because like in canon, it's like we're 30 years after the films and there's still no Jedi. Like, Lucas tried to rebuild the Order and it catastrophically fails, and like, we have no idea what's going to happen now. And they've already said that like they're going to be done with this era for a while, all this stuff. Like, you know, we have no idea if they're ever going to bring back Daisy Ridley in these sequel era characters.
Right.
Like, I have no idea if that's going to happen. And man, the sky is really the limit in what they can do. I mean, they can completely change the Jedi in the future if they want. And we will see that in our lifetime. Like, it's going to happen. Like, whether or not it's films or books or comics, we are definitely going to see that in our lifetime, because it would be crazy not to. There's no way they're only going to look backwards now on the timeline. Like, it'll eventually happen. And I have no idea what that's going to look like.
Yeah. Well, going back to your original question, then I think it's so interesting. Like, where do the Jedi go from here? And I think the choice, I think we universally agree. We've said it on the show before. The choice to go back to the High Republic was brilliant.
Absolutely.
To let the sequel era like rest, let it have an actual like perceived finality, so we can go back, we can tell a bunch of stories there, and then 5-10 years we'll hit it again. I think the future of the Jedi now, actually, this is gonna sound kind of weird and meta, the future of the Jedi lives in the past. I think that understanding the High Republic more is going to say a lot more about the future of the Jedi than the immediate future could. I think that there's no accident that if you're reading a lot of the current Star Wars comics, not only because Charles Soule is also writing them, but like a lot of the High Republic stuff is starting to filter in. They're starting to retroactively put in these golden era Jedi in a great way. And I think it's because we've spent the last decade or so really showing the flaws of the Jedi. We've shown Order 66, we've shown them falling, we've shown the destruction, and we've shown how by the time Rey emerges in episode 9, all right, now we can start again. We've had that full story. Right. Now, let's show kind of what they would want to be. Like, they're not there, but let's show what the Jedi were like when there wasn't a Sith war and all these things. And I think that this storytelling, if Light of the Jedi is any indication, is such a brilliant future. So to finally, after all that monologue, get to your answer, Corey, I think the future of the Jedi is going to be one of making them heroes again, is one of showing that you can be a hero, but you can also be flawed. I think that these Jedi of the High Republic are going to be absolutely tied to the Force. I think they're going to expand our knowledge of what the Force can be and what the Force is. But I do think that they are not going to just play the same trope of, well, they're actually all kind of bad and power hungry, and they're actually all kind of falling and selfish. I think we're going to see true heroic Jedi, so that when we eventually do come back to the sequel era, I think we're going to see, oh, this is what we can aspire to become. This is what we can aspire to be once more. That's my thought.
I think that's really interesting, because I think that so to preface this, I used to think that the prequel era, that was the pinnacle of the Jedi. And I would argue, even after being not even all the way through the initial book in the High Republic, I can now say that is the pinnacle of the Jedi. That is like the ideal Jedi Order. It's a less perverted version, essentially, of what we saw in the prequels. But I'll also say that moving forward, I don't think that Rey or kind of from that point on with the Jedi, I don't think you would build an order, like, period. I think the future of the Jedi chronologically is, I guess you have to answer these questions. What is, balancing the Force? Was that achieved at the end of the Rise of Skywalker? But I think we'll see it kind of go back to what we saw with Luke, where there is no order. There are just good people who rise to the occasion when they need to.
Fascinating. I will say that the sequel trilogy certainly sets up this idea of a much more philosophical, like, being in tune with the living Force, and it's hubris to think that we can control. I mean, like, they certainly set that up nicely, that like the lessons that Rey learned towards the end of the sequel trilogy, like, certainly makes it possible to not have to build an order. Like,
well, and isn't that kind of the beautiful overall story? If you really want Star Wars to be this allegory for the world, isn't that a beautiful lesson to be like, there's not going to be some big golden order in the sky that's going to save everyone. It's actually the responsibility of each individual Jedi or each individual citizen to then listen to the Force, live for the light, as Qui-Gon says, because it is the light, and kind of change the universe that way. So that's interesting from the meta perspective. Wes, what do you think?
Do you think in the High Republic they're going to explore a dyad in the Force to solidify that point in the Rise of Skywalker?
Ooh, Ooh.
It's got to be coming eventually. If it's not going to happen in the High Republic, it's going to happen in some other
Because
medium.
he said generations, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that'll be the thing that all fans hit on, right? Because we're jerks.
Nerds.
Yeah, we're nerds.
Nerd.
We're nerds. I talked about a book about vehicles, and it was cool. Maybe that's actually a great point. I think that there is definitely a possibility that a book could be like, I don't know. I just sense that they're in trouble, and I can't explain why. Or like there's a powerful foe. I think it'd be interesting that if the next dyad is two dark side people that are like unstoppable for some reason, but
Yeah.
maybe. That's my answer. Maybe, Wes. That's a cool idea, though.
Well, I don't
dig
know.
it.
I'm just trying to think if they're trying to, like I said earlier, solidify that point that the dyad and the Force is a thing. It's not just something that they came up with
Right.
at the last cinematic movie that came out.
I could see them finding a holocron with information about it. Maybe. So it goes
Okay,
a
I
little
like.
earlier in
Yeah, I
the
like that
Republic era.
idea.
I'm excited to get holocrons back. I want more holocrons. I want books, but is pictures of people in stones is books. That's what I want.
I hope that's the future of Star Wars books. I hope you can just like literally get a holocron and it's like Obi-Wan Kenobi like talking to me. Like I can just talk to him. You know what I mean?
That'd be
Like
great.
Alexa.
Yes, exactly.
Obi-Wan.
Except
folks.
instead of Obi-Wan, it's Jeff Bezos. So there you go.
Oh God! Well, hey, as we round out this conversation about the Grand Jedi, let's go around once. We always like to end with something fun, something nice, something light. Who is your favorite non-film Jedi? Charles, I'm gonna start with you because I took away your answer.
Oh my god, I know. I was prepared. Oh my gosh, my favorite
Like non-film media Jedi, like does that count Clone Wars and stuff too, or what?
I'll let TV shows slide, but like
Okay.
so non like
TV shows
quote unquote
slide.
main character Jedi.
Yeah.
You know?
Crap.
That the expanded universe, because we're on brand, ain't we? That the
Yeah.
expanded universe has really made into a great character.
I have an answer. I usually don't have an answer first, so
Okay,
I
please,
can
please.
go.
Yeah.
I hope it's not stealing anybody else's answer because I'm gonna categorize it. I've always been a huge fan of the Solo kids, like Jason,
Ooh,
Jaina,
yeah.
and that's like first love bias, right? Because like those were my first books was the like what is it oh my god, Legacy of the Force series and
Yep.
Fate of the Jedi series. Those were my first books that I ever read, so I loved seeing their crazy arcs and Jason Solo's turn to the dark side and it was fun. I love those characters. The Jaina's arc as becoming the sword of the Jedi and then she has to fight Jason is like that's such a great arc and I love those Jedi
God,
still.
I can't wait to read those when I'm like 40.
I know at this rate we're getting
It's gonna be
so
great.
much canon stuff. Like unless you just get like a crap ton of time off, I don't see how you even have time to go back and read Legends books. It's so nuts.
Well, eventually our Patreon will be so high that it's gonna be my full-time job just to sit back and read Star Wars books at home. YouTube.com/Patreon.
Yeah.
Wes, Charles, what about here? No, I'll go next. It's my own question. I'll fall on my own sword. This is gonna sound like a bit, but it's truly not, and it is early.
bit.
I will admit that. At this point, because I am a recency bias kind of guy, I think it's Loden Greatstorm.
Wow.
I love this character, and I was predestined to, right? I made it my name in Discord. He was my Bail Organa of the High Republic. I made that a whole bit. But in all seriousness, the way he's written in Light of the Jedi is so good. Jared on our team actually messaged me as we were reading. He's like, "How does it feel for Loden to like live up to that reputation?" And I think that's truly what it was. I just love the way he acts as a master. I love how he's always the constant teacher and also a total badass. And he's described in some of the early chapters by Bell Zettifar's apprentice, listening to the Force, and he describes Loden as like this eternal flame that's behind this wall because he's not using all his power, but he can, and he's just like a furnace Anyway, I'm excited to see Loden as time goes on, but at this point, I'm gonna say him. Charles West, what do you got?
I have two, I guess. I have one that I'm really curious about, and I have one that it would be my favorite Jedi that's not on screen, I guess. So the one that I'm most curious about is Sharad Het, pretty much from Kenobi fame, but it's the Tusken Raider Jedi.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow!
Like
Man,
how
that's a
in the
stretch.
hell did it even get to that point, right?
Yes.
Wes just
So-
became official like main host of this podcast. That was god damn.
I know,
After I read
we
that
need
book, I
Wes. We need a huge siren sound effect. We're just like, woo, woo. It's like,
God, if you're on video,
Nerd
I hope
alert!
you enjoyed
oh
when me
man.
and Corey and Charles just went, what? But that's great.
Yes, you freaking nerds. He is the Tusken Raider Jedi. All right. The one, my favorite that didn't make it on screen, but was mentioned is Master Sifo-Dyas. Why did he have
Oh, hell
those?
yeah.
Why
That's a
did he
great
have
one.
those migraines? And, like, how did he know? How did he know that he needed to create that clone army?
It's crazy.
Specifically,
Damn.
and then we have all ideas and everything, but yeah, Master
Dooku
Sifo-Dyas
Jedi
would be a
lost
good
if
one.
you love Sifo-Dyas.
Yeah.
Got Karos Scott did a great job with that. Also, before I go to you, Charles, I realized I said Clone Wars. Ahsoka would definitely be my favorite if we're counting Clone Wars as well. I went a little more new character-y, but I realized that if I didn't admit that Ahsoka is my favorite non-film Jedi by my own rules, I am incorrect. But excellent answers both. Charles, you got anything more obscure than Asharad Het?
No, nothing more obscure than that. I will say I want to stay on brand and say it's Rail Averos, but it's not really. I'm gonna say two answers actually. I know we've talked a lot about The Force Unleashed and Heather recently playing on our Utini game night and whatnot. But for real, I'm gonna consider Starkiller, right, or Galen Merrick to be a Jedi, and he was fantastic, and I love that storyline. And Sam Witwer crushed that.
Yeah, he
And
did.
also,
God, so good.
y'all may have noticed my dog made an appearance a little bit earlier if you're watching the live stream, and his name is Coda, and there's a story behind his name, but essentially he's secretly named after Ram Coda, who was essentially the master of Starkiller in the Force Unleashed series.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna throw him in the mix as well. He was dope. He was blind.
Yeah, one of the best like concept art characters that came to fruition ever. He looked so cool.
He was so samurai, dude. Like with his little top knot kind of ponytail, and he was
his dirty,
blind, and he was a
dirty
master
blindfold.
swordsman.
Oh, it's sick.
Yeah, man, he was awesome.
And of course, for all our listeners, Force Unleashed and The Force Unleashed 2 do have novelizations, which you can order at utini.com using our Amazon affiliate links. So feel free. But yeah, awesome. All this to say, the Jedi have had such a journey in the expanded universe, from Legends to canon to other media projects. And after last week's excitement about a book all about Jedi, about a comic that's sold already into its third printing, all about Jedi, the community is clearly as hungry as ever, and I'm very excited to track their evolution with you guys. And hey, on a future episode, probably this month, I'll say, we'll be diving into the other side of the coin, into the absolute insanity that is the dark side of the Force, especially in Legends. Buckle up. Now, before we get out of here, Wes, let's make a quick announcement about UTD Game Night. We're doing a little bit of a change this week.
Yeah, so Utini Game Night live on Twitch on Wednesdays and or Fridays. We'll be taking a week off, so we'll probably be doing Utini Game Nights twice a month or every 2 weeks. So that's kind of what our direction is. We'll be going forward. But Utini Game Nights is a Twitch project that we play Star Wars games. So whether it be new games or whether it be old games or whether it be Super Nintendo games, if you can throw that up on your computer, we're gonna go with that. So Star Wars games at Utini Game Night on Wednesdays and Fridays. Check us out on Twitch.
Beautiful. And as a reminder for all your Utini goodness, make sure you follow us on Twitch. You're going to get some little alerts of all the live stuff we do. I think I'm going to jump on one of those Utini game nights coming up, but I'm going to switch it up, and I'm going to build some of the Legos I got for the holidays. So make sure you tune in to see me Maybe build half the Tana before and drink 2 bottles of wine. We'll see if we have a good time. That better be on
Oh my
Friday.
God.
I'm not promising anything, but if Cheryl wants me to do it, I guess I gotta. A couple other things on our Patreon. As we mentioned earlier, we got all kinds of great content coming your way. We got the Star Wars Archives that's coming out. We got Legends Look Back, which is, of course, live on Thursdays, has their own Twitter feed, but it's also on the Patreon feed. The Conjure Book Club started their Light of the Jedi conversation this past Saturday. It was fantastic. And they'll be continuing in that this Saturday in the Discord chat, as well as in the Patreon feed. And a reminder that their February book will be Heir to the Empire featuring Cheryl Bell. So if you're like Jacob Spiceden and have not read Heir to the Empire yet, what a better time to read it for the first time with the whole Conjure Book Club crew. All right, my friends. On that note of the Light of the Jedi themselves, that is going to do it for this week's episode of The Living Force. If you're already supporting us over on Patreon, thank you so much. We went a little long talking Jedi this week, so there will be no aftermath, but take all the love you want along with you. A special thank you, though, goes to Cheryl Bell, Patrick Ortiz, and Carl Sander on our Jedi High Council, and Kyle Hickman, Elizabeth Cloutier, Freddie C., and Sally and Chris Eilerson on our Alliance High Command for their amazing support of this show and all things UTD. You can find us on Twitter. I'm at Eric Eilerson. Corey is at Doc Star Wars MD. Charles is at C. Henkel. Wes is at Boss Wes. A special thank you to Matt Davenport, our amazing editor. Ryan, our graphic designer extraordinaire. And Wes, you producer and community manager, you. Thank you to Corey, Charles, and Wes for podcasting with me. Thank you to all of you in the chat for hanging out and making this night so great. Stay safe. Have a great week. And remember, we are all the Republic.